There's a lot of talk at the moment in the United Kingdom of having a citizens' army, or really what they mean by that, which is bringing back conscription, bringing back this this system that we had that ended in I think the mid 1950s or so, whereby we had national service and people had to do X number of years service for their country and they got trained in the military and so on. And I really agree with that. I think it's actually a great idea that we should have something like national service. I think we should institute it at schools instead of PE. I think it'd be a great thing to have more kids growing up with the ambition of being something like a soldier than a footballer, for instance. And I think we need to take the emphasis very much away from football and learning things and stuff like that, and sport, which like goes on endlessly. There's just an endless amount of pointless sport in the world. Whereas I think people could be far better trained as soldiers, technicians, engineers, fighter pilots, and given sort of basic survival skills along with physical education, obviously, and self defense and teamwork, comradeship, all those sorts of things that you get in the armed forces. I think we should do that at schools instead of PE, and I think we should have mandatory education up until the age of 18, and like, then have this sort of 18 cut-off point into adulthood, but have no conscription. Definitely not. I don't think we should have conscription at all. And after 18, I think it should be very much the individual's choice whether or not they enter the military and whether they don't enter the military. However, I think having the military training at school eliminates really the need for conscription, because I think you make military jobs a lot more competitive that way, and you have a lot more people enthused in being part of the military if you were to do this at school, rather than having national service, which is where a sort of conscripts system which begins after people graduate from school, and then forces people basically into the military for 2 years, and if we happen to fight a war during that period of time, people will be shipped off to war, obviously. And I think it's a lot better to give people the freedom of choice over whether or not they pick up a gun and actually go and kill people, and not just threaten them with prison or whatever else it is for not being part of national service. I don't particularly want to see Britain become like Israel either, and to have that kind of system, or really any other system with national service. I think national service is kind of an outdated, outmoded, kind of pointless institution. And yet, if you're going to have a citizens' army, so called, make it really a citizens' army as opposed to a subject army, and really give people the freedom of choice, and really kind of have a system of a state mercenary force, if you like, whereby people, when they're entering the armed forces, don't even sign themselves up for, what is it, like a commission, they call that, where it's like for 5 years or for 3 years or whatever it is. I think it should be much more like a pay by the hour, 0 hours contracts, freelance soldiery kind of deal, whereby if the state really wants us to fight in a war, they have to pay us fair, and they have to find the money from somewhere to pay for the war, entice people into it with money, and or let people have the freedom of choice, and decide with their own conscience whether or not they fight. And of course, this idea of having a citizens' army is brought on, of course, by the war in Ukraine at the moment. So it's a very touchy, very difficult situation there, and it's very difficult trying to gauge the extent to which we should be involved in that situation, since it has a very high possibility of going nuclear. However, perhaps this nuclear threat has also been overstated somewhat, since recent advancements in hypersonic technology have somewhat ended the nuclear stalemate, and we now have the technology where it's possible to shoot down ICBMs with incredibly fast hypersonic warheads using conventional weapons. However, obviously, it's also possible to put nuclear weapons onto a hypersonic warhead, and I'm actually sort of uncertain, and I'm uncertain because the extent to which anyone really knows whether or not we can shoot down hypersonic warheads is of course top secret. So I actually don't know whether or not we can shoot down nuclear warheads attached to hypersonic devices. However, I'm actually tempted to say we probably could, because I've learned about various things such as using lasers to do this. We could maybe use railguns even to do it, and there may be also sorts of various things that I've kind of gleaned from my learning in science and engineering that could very possibly shoot down hypersonic warheads even, but I don't know that particularly. So yeah, I think that we should not have conscription, but have military education at school, and have this kind of situation after we leave school, whereby we're soldiers of conscience, if you like, whereby we can, or soldiers of fortune, whereby we have to be enticed into the military by either money, as mercenaries more or less, or enticed into it by our own conscience as to whether or not we partake in any given war that we happen to want to be involved in. So, I mean, whether or not I would fight in Ukraine, I almost did go and fight in Ukraine, or tried to. I booked a plane ticket, or was going to book a plane ticket. I think my card got declined. Yeah, I actually did. I actually tried to book a plane ticket to Poland. I was going to Ukraine to help out in any way that I could, really. Probably not as a soldier, more like as somebody like lifting boxes of medical supplies or supplies around, or helping people out making Molotov cocktails or whatever. But yeah, I was actually going to go to Ukraine and help with the war, but it never happened, it never materialised. And I think if we want to do those sorts of things, I think we have to allow people to make up their own minds as to whether or not they do it, rather than having a kind of a national agenda whereby we seek to conscript people, coerce them into being soldiers, put machine guns in their hands, shuttle them in front of machine guns to probably die in their millions or whatever. We certainly don't need a nuclear conflict. We certainly don't need a nuclear exchange. Lots of people think that if NATO enters the war in Ukraine, it will become a nuclear conflict, and it will result in probably hundreds of millions of people getting killed. And we don't need that, and we do need a better alternative. And also, another thing is, I don't think, given what it's like in the United Kingdom for young people at the moment, what it's been like for young people for the last 13 years or so, and really, even before then, I don't think we're going to stand for it, not in this generation. I don't think we'll stand for conscription. I think with anything like conscription, you run an equal likelihood of sparking, an uprising really here at home. And I don't think you're very likely to see many people enthused about fighting for their country after the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think, considering how we treat a lot of our servicemen and women, I don't think you're going to see very many people wanting to join the military. They clearly don't, anyway. Most people don't want to kill people. It's very hard to convince people that killing people is a good thing, or that there isn't some national agenda involved in it, or there isn't some agenda for elites involved in it, or for the financial system, or for whatever it is. And it's just, I think, unlikely to happen, and likely to cause more trouble than it would ever solve. So that's my take on things. Bye.